Greetings, Andy here again, another quick video, and this is something of a sort of unplanned impromptu one which I picked up from watching a video which Dale at Gamefold 33 did on the weekend, and basically it's looking at picking 10 albums which have a really good or great first track on side B, i.e. a cracking track B1, and I sort of I think it's a bit of a thread, but I haven't seen any of the others, to be honest. But I was sort of quite intrigued by it, and whilst I hadn't planned to do it, I started sort of digging around, and I've ended up deciding to have a go at this. Only I'm doing 11, and that's because one of the albums, the one I'm going to kick off with, was the very first thing that popped into my head when Dale started introducing it, and then he did it. So I'm repeating one from Dale, and then I've got 10 others, and so that's the first album I'm going to do, and the last one is the other album which popped into my head at much the same time, which Dale didn't do. So I've sort of set myself some rules here, and tied my hands behind my back as a result. So side B1, well, basically that means it can't have been a CD originally, because, you know, let's face it, that would have just been track 6 or 7 or something, which just happened when converted to vinyl to be the first track. So I'm here picking tracks which are really good and were obviously intended to be the opener on side B. I'm picking tracks, you know, generally I think which are pretty well known. In other words, they're not just, it's a song I quite like, but one which really sort of kicks off that side B, either because it's the introduction of a theme of some sort, or it's a great single, or just a really, really, really good track. So I was amazed when I started researching this, actually how few albums really have a cracking opener to side B. I must have sort of looked, I thought of lots of albums and then went and checked and thought, that's a bit of a filler. And, I must have, coming up with these 10 plus the one, I must have looked up 40 plus, 40 to 50 albums, and was disappointed that so many of them were fairly ordinary. I've got some crackers here, I think. They're all pretty old, so they're all last century, because when I started looking at the current century, more recent ones, they were all really looked like they were sort of originally CDs. And I might say, I'm only doing single LPs here, so no doubles, and also all studio albums. Though one is sort of a soundtrack, but really it's a studio album. So let's get cracking. And the first one, which is the one which Dale said, we go back to the 60s. So I'm doing these in chronological order, by the way, starting old and coming closer to date. And that is the Beach Boys and Pet Sounds. This is their one I got fairly recently, the 50th anniversary in mono. And, the track which opens side 2 is God Only Knows, which, it's fabulous. It doesn't take very much introduction to me, but in my humble opinion, that is the best pop song ever written. I think it's that good. So, it's a great album. Everyone slags off Sloop John B, the closer of side 1, but I quite like it. Just don't tell anyone. I don't feel guilty about it, though. So let's move on rapidly. And another from the 60s, I very rarely show. If you're sort of relatively new to my channel, then, you'll know that, I tend to do mostly newer music. But this showcases some of my older ones. And the Beatles, Abbey Road, this is a reissue, so I didn't have it back in the day. And the opening track is a George Harrison cracker, opening track side B, I should say, Here Comes the Sun. Fabulous album. Well, so everyone knows it. Fabulous album, fabulous song, and a really beautiful song to kick off side B. So we now move into the 70s, where most of these are, and you know, maybe that's just a recognition of the position of vinyl music being produced in the 70s, as opposed to much later on, predominantly CD and then streaming. 1971, Jethro Tull, Aqualung. And Aqualung, the album, is themed in two parts. And they even list them. Side A is Aqualung, so that's the one everyone thinks of. Side B is titled My God. And the opening track is also My God, so that's the one I'm talking about. And it's a sort of, the whole of that is a treatise on organised religion versus just religion itself. And it was, you know, when I was a kid, it sort of really gelled with me. I don't want to talk about theology on here, but I have absolutely nothing against religion in all its forms, but I'm distrustful of organised religion, I'm afraid. And My God, the opening track, is absolutely superb, and it to me almost encompasses just about everything which is good about Jethro Tull. From the opening acoustic guitar, which I think is Ian Anderson, some really epic electric and quite heavy electric guitar from Martin Barr in there as well. The great flute work from Anderson, great singing. It's just an all-round good track, and it kicks off and introduces that theme. Absolutely love it. Same year, 1971, and the Groundhogs split. Now, side one, and this is my original from 1971. On my board it's 72, but it's an original. And the first side of it is a sort of four-parter of Split, so Split there. And then side two kicks off with Cherry Red, which is possibly their greatest track ever. Nearly 6 minutes of absolutely superb rocking blues rock, classic blues rock, with superb guitar work from, mixed up there, from the great Tony McPhee. I have mentioned this before, but not for quite a long time. But I saw him in Wolverhampton in about, I can't remember, it was either 05 or 06 or around then, doing a solo gig at a tiny venue called the Little Civic. So basically, in Wolverhampton, the main concert hall is called Civic Hall, and down the road from it, in a separate small building, is the ticket hall, basically. And upstairs at the ticket hall is this tiny little venue called the Little Civic, and it's sort of like the size of a back room of a pub. And we went to see him there, and there was probably only about 50 people. I've long had this vinyl one. I bought the CD. His missus was doing the merchandise table, so I had a nice chat to her. And then when he played Cherry Red, I was the idiot at the front, playing air guitar right in front of the maestro while he played Cherry Red. And more recently, in the last few years, this has been reissued by Fire Records, and I've got that one. In Cherry Red vinyl, appropriately. So another cracker. And we move forward a year. So we're sort of still in the same era, 1972. And Wishbone Ash Argos is second. I talked about Wishbone Ash on my last video, the live records, if you saw it, but this is probably their classic, so their third album from 1972, and there's the band, and the track which opens it up is The King Will Come. So that's a sort of seven odd minute, and it builds up gradually. But all through it is this guitar work between Ted Turner and Andy Powell. and just absolutely superb. It just builds up and builds and builds. And this is probably another example of where the opening track is all of the tracks on the album are brilliant. But that is too, and it's a really nice introduction to the second side. So it builds into it. Doesn't start with a bang. Move forward another year, and out of another total classic, Pink Floyd, Dark Side of the Moon, and the opening track on side B is Money. One of the most famous songs ever. So another all killer, obviously, but what an opener to a second side. And we move forward another year, 1974, and Supertramp. Crime of the Century, and this is a classic example where you've got a great pop single, basically, because the opening on side B, if you can see that, is Dreamer, which a lot of people, because it's very pop, a lot of people slag it on. But Supertramp was sort of a mix of prog pop and art rock, and Dreamer is an out and out pop song, as is sort of Bloody Well Right, which is also on this album. So great song. And I pulled this out, I listened to it again. I haven't heard it for ages. And I thought, what a song. And we move forward another 3 years now. So we're jumping the mid-70s, and we're going to 1977, and punk is with us, and the Stranglers and their album, variously known as Four, only it's their second album, and Rattus Norvegicus. And it opens, side 2 opens with Peaches, another single. And it's sort of like, one of their later songs is called Nice and Sleazy, but Peaches could be. It's got that really sort of sleazy, gutsy sort of sound to it, snarly, and it's sort of... It's the Stranglers all around. So they were such a clever band. They jumped on the punk bandwagon, but I'm not convinced they were real punks in that sense. They were just a bloody good rock and roll band. So there we go. And our last one from the 70s, right at the end, 79, and The Police and Regatta de Blanc. Great album. It's a bit of an all killer, but it opens. Side 2 opens with Walking on the Moon. So another single, another one which is still played to this day. Great song. Again, because it's a sort of pop single, essentially, a lot of people don't like it, but I just think it's a fabulous one. As is Message in a Bottle on here, and The Bed's Too Big Without You, some great singles produced from this album. So we now move into the 80s. As regular viewers know, I don't have massive albums from the 80s, but this is what I had to put in there, and it's Purple Rain Prince and the Revolution and Purple Rain. And I know it's a soundtrack, but to me it plays like, and it feels like a regular studio album. And the second side, you can't really, the artwork doesn't, it all sort of merges into one a bit. But the opening track on side 2, or side B, is When Doves Cry. Again, doesn't require very much introduction from me. Such a well-known song, heartfelt lyrics. It's one which always feels sort of, right. Lovely track. Last, but very much not least, we move into the 90s when it was all about CDs. But this is one I'm pretty convinced actually was always thought of in side A and side B, and it's the way it's sort of produced. And Jeff Buckley, Grace, and of course side 2 starts with one of the best covers ever, Hallelujah. So again, what can I say? Jeff Buckley, Hallelujah. It's very different to Leonard's original, but it's just a wonderful, wonderful song. So there you go, quick run through. I'm not doing samples or anything because they're all sort of too well known. And in the interest of time, it was, as I say, an impromptu, just tickled my fancy to do it, having been intrigued enough to go and have a look at a few records and remind myself of what the first tracks on side B were. So thanks for watching. Cheers.